everyone, welcome back to week 4 of MPA 510, where I will be discussing public versus private sectors, specifically public higher education versus private higher education. Let's get started. Quick overview of the presentation. I will be discussing the similarities and differences between both education agencies, and if at the end of the day it really is important and why it affects us. When referring to public versus public universities or colleges, there is a reference to the school source of funding. Both public and private universities charge tuition and fees to students. They both award accredited degrees recognized federally. They can both be high-ranking on university listings as well. Both private and public higher education facilities use Luther Gulick and Lyndall Erwick's theory of organization planning for expansion and student needs, staffing to provide students with best education possible, directing towards maximum amount of students entering the workforce prepared, coordinating campus life and other activities to make the campus appealing, although the reporting and budgeting is much where the differences between the two come in. The private higher level institution can offer more financial aid in form of merit scholarships because of private donations, since their funding does come from corporations, sponsors, or alumni donations. They do have smaller classes that are more accessible, making it more likely for students to finish in 4 years. The student to professor ratio is usually much smaller, and the curriculum and standards are decided by the university's department administrators and staff members, which is always nice because you are getting an education based on what people in your community think that you need. And it is also nice to know that in the private higher level institutions, you also get many times religion incorporated into your education, which for many people like myself is also really important. Unlike the public school sector, where usually it's supported by state funds, which means they can offer lower tuition rates, especially to in-state applicants, because many of their tax dollars are being used to fund the institution. That is why there also might be considerations to in-state applicants, but the curriculum and standards are generally set by the state agencies, and usually because it is a public school, they don't tend to religion and they don't affiliate themselves with gender or religion at all. At the end of the day, public versus private higher education really comes down to a personal decision, and using Maslow's hierarchy of needs would be a good way of deciding whether private or public really matters for you as an individual. Would you be going to a private and still getting enough air, water, food, shelter, sleep, and clothing, knowing that you're paying so much out of pocket? Would you feel safe in that environment, and knowing that maybe you're a little bit out of place, or that you're going to be needing to live to a higher expectation of? It's more on a personal level also to see if you'll flourish in a public setting where there's so many people, and will you be able to make those friendships, and will you be able to find a sense of family and connect with other people? Will you finish in 4 years at one institution or the other, and will your self-esteem thrive? Will you find recognition and strength, whether it be a small school or a big school? And self-actualization at a public or a private school, it's a personal decision. Will you find a desire to become the most that can be at one or the other? At the end of the day, public and private higher institutions are really there to give you options, especially if you're a first generation student or a second generation student that is still trying to figure out the ropes of higher education. It is really more on a personal level, and what you feel comfortable with, what your family can provide, and what you can actually achieve on your own. And although the government does fund a lot of the public institutions, they're just options for you, and they are not necessarily saying you need to go to this school, but they are saying we will help you go to the school. And there's also those private schools that are saying we will provide you full tuition because you have earned on merit to come to the school for free. At the end of the day, both of the private and public institutions are just options. So thank you again for listening to my presentation, and I will see you guys next week.